Ezra Hopkins, oh my goodness. Did he catch that? Did he catch that? That's the touchdown catch of the year if that's good.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
I think Carson Wentz throws for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns in his return against the Indianapolis Colts to lead the Eagles to victory on Sunday.
You were just talking about him, Drew Brees, one of the best quarterbacks of all time, one of my favorite players of all time. Not only is he going to break the passing yard record this week, he only needs 201 yards to do it. He's going to obliterate it.
Welcome to 4th and Long, your weekly NFL talk show here on Com Radio. Now, here are your hosts, Jason Marcus and DJ Bauer.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of 4th and Long on Com Radio. I'm your host, Jason Marcus, alongside me, Francesco DeFalco. DJ Bauer out today with a sickness, so we hope that he gets well very soon. But Francesco, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to have you back. If only we could figure out a way to get all three of us into the same room.
I know. That'll be the day. Hey, eventually, one day, all three of us will be back here again. But nonetheless, thank you guys again for holding down the fort while I was gone last week. I got a chance to listen to the podcast. Really enjoyed it. I thought you guys did a great job. So
thank you very much.
Thanks again for that. But we got to move on to this week because, again, another interesting week in the NFL. A lot of teams had surprise wins. A lot of teams had surprise losses. So let's waste no more time and let's get into some of the big games from this past week. It was week 10 in the NFL, and it started off with a pretty good game, or at least so people thought it was going to be, between the Carolina Panthers at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both of these teams looked like they were had a very high chance of making the playoffs. Looked at some pretty good teams, but the end result was pretty lopsided, Francesco. The Pittsburgh Steelers ended up getting the win 52-21 here. They dropped a 50-burger on the Panthers. What was your reaction to the Steelers' dominant win past Thursday?
I don't think that this was necessarily a bad game for the Panthers. I think that what this game shows is that the Steelers are the real deal this year, which is why I think the biggest loser of this game was Le'Veon Bell.
I mean, I think the biggest loser this season is Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
You see he gave up $14.5 million this year,
Yep.
and he's not – I hope someone offers him less than $14.5 in free agency. Like, I hope and I think it's very likely that it happens. That, I mean, do you want that kind of attitude in your locker room if you're a general manager and owner? And, like – I guess that's a poor phrasing of words because it's not really an attitude problem. It's a business decision with him. But still, that it creates a culture that's not necessarily best for a football team.
I agree. And I think this is a situation in which I don't think Le'Veon Bell will ever get I don't want to say he won't ever recover because, you know, he's going to get a good contract and he's going to be a good player. But I think what's more important about this is that he's really, you know, doing a lot of great stuff for running backs down the line. By sacrificing, you know, a year of his career, a year of his prime, by, you know, getting essentially cut from the team, you know, he's not getting a contract back there, you know, essentially cutting ties with his team. He's basically saying, you know, these running backs, they go through a lot. These players, they go through a lot. You have to pay them.
I disagree, though. I don't look at this as him getting cut. I look at this as him quitting. Listen. At the end of the day, he had more money than anybody else in the league on the table, and he turned it down. Or any running back in the league, and he turned it down. He was scheduled to make $14.5 million this year, and he said no. He could have made more money than anyone and been on a team that's very likely a Super Bowl contender at this point, and he said no. Do I understand the reasons for him saying no? Absolutely, and he's a long-term investment. But it's naive to think that this isn't going to have long-term effects on the way the general managers perceive Le'Veon Bell. It's a selfish move. No, I mean, whether you can argue the merits of whether or not it was the right decision for Le'Veon Bell, but at the end of the day, it's a selfish move.
I don't think the point of it was necessarily how much money, but more so just, you know, the long-term security of it. He was only going to get paid for 1 year. You look at what happened to Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas was saying, you know, I want to get traded. I want to do this because they wouldn't offer him a long-term contract. He ended up playing anyway, and then he broke his leg. And now he's going to have to play on, you know, a 1 year, 2 year prove-it deal. There's just no financial stability, especially for someone like Le'Veon in the running back position where you don't have many years in the NFL. They have one of the shortest, you know, career spans.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, they get roughed up. Their bodies get, you know, hit, and they go through so much. And that's a position in which, you know, your life could change, you know, on one play.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, you have something like that. What if he had a career-ending injury this season? You know, obviously we're talking about millions of dollars for these players, but it's just all about stability. They have no income going down the line.
Yeah.
Going forward, if something like that happens.
No.
So, he has the money. They were offering him the money. It was just, the long-term investment in him that the Steelers weren't willing to do, which is why they weren't, which is why he wouldn't agree to anything.
I disagree. I think the Steelers tried to offer him a long-term deal, and he said no because that's not the money I want. And so he wasn't going to agree to any deal. So they said, all right, well, if you're not going to agree to a deal, let's at least sign this franchise tender and give us another year to figure it out. And he wouldn't even sign the franchise tender. So, I mean, either way, I understand the logic behind it. And you mentioned it. Like, running backs have the shortest average career length out of any NFL position. They get hit on every play that they're on. And a lineman, too. But, listen, I understand the merits of it. I'm just saying from the perspective of someone who's trying to put together a team and, more importantly, a locker room, it doesn't necessarily reflect as positively as it could have.
I agree. I just kind of hope that at the end of the season, after the whole Le'Veon scandal and after what happened to Earl Thomas, that the league and the NFLPA, the league, they realize that with these franchise tenders and everything, that these players, their lives can change, so quickly, and that they need to start figuring out ways for them to get some more long-term stability.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's continue riding this whole Le'Veon Bell story. Let's say he's going to play next year. It's not going to be for the Pittsburgh Steelers, though. So he's going to probably be the biggest crown jewel of the free agent class. Somebody's going to pay him. Is it going to be more than he wanted from Pittsburgh? I don't know. I have a tough time believing that someone's going to give him the money he wants after this. But if you're an NFL GM, who do you think should be making the biggest move to get Le'Veon Bell in this offseason?
His name was tied to this team for a while in the offseason. He actually turned down an offer from them because he just didn't want to play on the team, the New York Jets.
Interesting. I didn't know he turned down an offer from the Jets.
Yeah, they offered him some money, and I mean, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just about the money, but it really seemed like he wanted to play on more of a contender. The New York Jets, they just lost their running back for potentially their whole career.
Yeah.
They have a lot of money. They're second in cap space coming into next year. So as of right now, they have a young quarterback that they're going to try to build around. They don't look like they have the most upside going forward besides that quarterback position, but they seem to like Le'Veon, and they have the money to splurge on a player like that.
Right. No, I agree. I really like that pick. I think it makes a lot of sense for the Jets to try and get him. Obviously, you said they already tried it, and he said no, so I don't know how likely that marriage now is. I mean, I guess if they offer more money, then maybe. But for me, I feel like there's another team that makes a lot more sense, and that to me, that's the Indianapolis Colts.
That was my second one. I was going to say that after.
So the Indianapolis Colts, historically, especially within the last 5 to 10 years, have been very frugal in free agency. They're not bringing in a lot of these big name guys.
It's been biting them.
Yeah, and I mean a lot. And also another reason is their run game has been historically pretty bad over the last. I can't remember the last Colts running back that made a Pro Bowl. Maybe.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, Frank Gore had a great career, but
yeah, I guess Frank Gore.
Season, he hasn't had the best.
But Frank Gore, I don't think it was ever looked at as a franchise running back.
Yeah, I agree.
And for a franchise that has had franchise running backs in the past, like Marshall Faulk and Edgerrin James and Joe Addai and all those guys, I think bringing Le'Veon Bell to the Indianapolis Colts is the best case scenario for both sides here, because for Le'Veon Bell, he's going to go to a team with a great young quarterback, a couple really good wide receivers, a pretty good O-line. I think if they can build the defense through a free agency in the draft, the Colts are a really good contender. And then for the Colts, obviously it makes sense to bring Le'Veon Bell there because he is such a dynamic and electrifying player, and it really fills that need at running back that they've been missing for years now. I think if you add Andrew Luck and Le'Veon Bell together behind that offensive line that's looked really good this year, I think they're dangerous in the AFC.
I agree. I said the Jets because I think that they would be the team most likely to just throw whatever money at Le'Veon, whatever money he wants.
Oh, yeah, Jets are big spenders.
I think the Colts are a great fit, mainly because one thing that the Colts have lacked, they've had an amazing quarterback, and they just had no help to give him. And I think, there are areas all over they can address with that, their defense, their receivers. But having a running back as dynamic as Le'Veon Bell would be amazing for Andrew Luck. And especially if Quentin Nelson can keep throwing those pancake blocks like he did this weekend, that would be a really good fit for Le'Veon, and that would definitely bolster their team immediately.
I agree. All right, that's going to lead us into our first break here in Fourth and Long. When we come back, we're going to continue talking about some of the games from Week 10 and as well as give our official predictions and bold predictions for Week 11. You are listening to Com Radio's Fourth and Long, and we will be right back. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fourth and Long on Com Radio. I'm your host, Jason Marcus. Alongside me, Francesco DeFalco. DJ Bauer is out with a sickness this week, but we have some important games from Week 10 to still talk about here, and no bigger was the New Orleans Saints at the Cincinnati Bengals this week. Again, the Saints have now won, 8 games in a row. Cincinnati Bengals don't look that bad in their own right here, but it was, again, a very lopsided win here for the Saints. They come into Cincinnati and get the win here, 51-14. Francesco, what was your biggest takeaway from this game?
I think the biggest takeaway from this was that, the Saints are – I don't know if they're going to win every game for the rest of the season, but they are on a hot streak right now. They've won 8 straight. Yeah, they've won 8 straight, and, coming off, breaking the Rams, win streak, here they are. They're looking like serious contenders. And I think the Bengals didn't look too poorly going into this game. They were one of the better teams in the AFC. And I think this was a wake-up call for the Bengals that they really couldn't compete against some of these bigger teams, which I think was partly the reasoning of firing their defensive coordinator. Like you said, lopsided game. It's not too surprising to me, though, because I think, the Saints, they're the real deal this year, and they know the certain games they need to perform in, and they did it here.
Yeah, and it's important to mention that the Bengals did fire Terrell Austin after this game, their defensive coordinator. And then they hired Hugh Jackson, not to be the defensive coordinator, but to just be a assistant to the head coach, which basically translates to we play the Cleveland Browns twice this year still, and we're going to hire the head coach that they just fired. I don't really think you need Hugh Jacksons to beat the Browns. I think you just need to play football to beat the Browns. I don't think it's that difficult. But nonetheless, Saints look like the best team in the NFL right now. Hard loss for the Cincinnati Bengals, but in that division, it's really just the Steelers that I feel like they have to worry about. Not a huge big Ravens fan right now. One more game I want to talk about this week, and it was a Sunday night game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. Dallas comes in to Philadelphia and wins 27-20. Now, that may seem like this was a closer game than it was.
Yeah, it was
not. For the Philadelphia Eagles and their fans, this is probably one of the toughest losses that they've ever had. Well, one of the toughest losses within the last 10 years specifically. There was so much expectation, especially coming off of their first Super Bowl win, that the Eagles were going to come in and do it again. And I think another part of that reason was because there was this feeling within the organization that they had kept most of their starters from the previous year's Super Bowl run. There's no reason the Eagles can't do it again. But for whatever reason, they just haven't been able to figure it out offensively. A lot of people really want to put the blame here on the Eagles' defense. And rightfully so, they deserve some. I mean, they blew a 21-point lead in the fourth quarter to the Carolina Panthers. They lost in overtime to an average Tennessee Titans squad. They lost to Ryan Fitzpatrick in Week 2, who now the Bucs are one of the worst teams in football. So there's definitely reason for blame to be put on the defense. But at the same time, the Eagles' defense has never let up more than 31 points in a game. And the Eagles' offense have surpassed that maybe a handful of times this entire year. The offense is really the big issue here. And Francesco, what are you seeing from the Eagles in particular that you think is their biggest struggle right now?
I think just the part of this all is just, this supposedly mythical, but really not that mythical Super Bowl hangover that these teams, face. No, the last team that repeated back-to-back Super Bowls were the Patriots, 13 years ago, 14
dang
years
Patriots.
Ago. It's just, even when you keep players like that, you have to consider that you have an entire season and postseason of film on these teams. Whatever reason helped you get to that point. For example, it was Carson Wentz early on in the season, and then it was Nick Foles near the end of it. Carson Wentz was a young quarterback. Now there's so much more film on him. These teams, they have played, they spent that entire season. A bunch of teams played the Eagles that season, and now they're coming in and playing them again, especially with a divisional rival like the Cowboys. You get familiar. I think part of it was a lot of the Eagles last season, a lot of their success came from, surprises and just doing the unexpected and, pulling.
Philly, baby.
Yeah, stuff like the Philly. And, the only thing about that is it's just not that sustainable.
Right.
You got to keep coming up with new ways to be surprising. And with someone like Belichick, that can work. But, for the Eagles, it's difficult to come up with such, crazy game plans, for so long.
Well, I think another big thing about the Eagles is that everything that they did really well last year that helped them to win the Super Bowl is exactly what they're struggling with this year, and that was running the ball and offensive line play. and honestly, and defense. So it's. I don't know if losing Frank Reich and John DeFilippo is the sole reason as to why the Eagles are struggling right now. I definitely think it's a factor. Carson is still doing really well. I mean, he's statistically wise, his offense is having trouble putting points up on the board, but Carson is doing everything he can to keep the Eagles in this game.
He's been looking all right. He has been.
I mean, but for the Cowboys in this one, though, I still, after this win, I'm not threatened by the Cowboys in the division. I don't know why after they beat us at home that I'm not, but I just don't. I think this was an Eagles loss, not as much a Cowboys win, which has been a lot of the story for the Eagles games this week. But what did you see from the Cowboys in this game that stood out to you?
I think part of this, and going back to the whole Super Bowl hangover thing and experience, is that going into the offseason, teams not only look to get better, but they also have to look at the team that won last year, or the top teams of the last year, and they have to go, what did they do to help them get that far? And they got to figure out how do we get our team like that, and then also how do we stop that?
Right.
And I think it's especially here, you have teams like the Dallas Cowboys who are in the division with the Eagles look and they go, we're going to play the Eagles twice a year. The Eagles won the Super Bowl. We're going to have to learn how to beat the Eagles if we want a chance.
Right, yeah.
And so it's something like that, and I saw good defense, all around. It was
Van Der Esch played great. He had a pick
six,
not a pick six, but an interception.
He had an interception. It was a great game. I think the Cowboys, they just studied the Eagles, and they knew how they studied, and they knew how to beat them, and they knew how the Eagles were finding success. And like you said, the things that helped the Eagles so much last season is where they're failing this season. And I think that's partly because teams like Dallas, they go out and they learn how to beat the Super Bowl champions in that exact way.
Hey, man, it's definitely valid. Once you win the Super Bowl, the target's bigger on you than it ever is before. I think I'm not completely sold on the Eagles being done just yet. I know we definitely still have a couple more weeks to play here in the regular season. I think if they can get Golden Tate more involved and he can be the impact player that they're hoping that he could be when they traded for him, I'm not sold that the Eagles are chances at the playoffs are done just yet. I think there's still a long way to go, though. But that's going to lead us into our second break. When we come back, we're going to give our official predictions for all our Week 11 games as well as our bold predictions. You are listening to Fourth and Long on Com Radio, and we will be right back.
You're listening to Fourth and Long with DJ Bauer and Jason Marcus here on Com Radio.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Fourth and Long on Com Radio. I'm your host, Jason Marcus, alongside me, Francesco DeFalco, and we are going to go through all the games for Week 11 in the NFL and give our official predictions. And it all kicks off tomorrow night at 8:20 p.m. It is the Green Bay Packers at the Seattle Seahawks. Two of the best quarterbacks in the NFL meet once again between Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. Francesco, which one do you see coming out on top on Thursday night?
This is one of those games where you have two quarterbacks who have proven that they can really put the team on their back and really pull out and win these games. The only issue is the Seahawks, they have a lot more of a surrounding cast than the Packers. It really hurts to be a Packers fan at this point, I feel like. It really hurts to be in the state of Wisconsin and seeing this because Aaron Rodgers has just been so good, but just no one has been giving him help. And I think we're going to see that. The Seahawks have been getting better every week. Their offensive line has been getting stronger. All around, they've been getting a better and better team. I'm going to give it to the Seahawks on this one.
This one's a tough one to call for me, but it definitely does rely both on the shoulders of the quarterbacks in this one. I don't think one team is necessarily better than the other. I think they're both pretty mediocre, to be completely honest here. But if I had to pick a winner here, I know the 12th man is pretty intimidating and not many people can go on the road. But if anyone's going to do it, I'm going to pick Aaron Rodgers and the Packers to win this one. It's actually a rematch of the Hail Mary game, so hopefully the Packers get a win as well here on Thursday night. On Sunday, during the 1 o'clock games, we have the Tennessee Titans at the Indianapolis Colts. Francesco, who you got?
I think, you look at the Titans coming off a big one against the Patriots. The Colts just played a divisional game last week. They're going into another. The one thing we've seen from the Titans is that they haven't been able to maintain their momentum. They haven't been able to keep up their performance. The Colts, I think, are in a little bit of a better position, coming off a Jaguars loss, their win. I'm going to have to say them because I feel like at the end of the day, the Titans just, 1 week they look so good and 1 week they look so bad. And I think the Colts are more, coming off of that last game, they're in a better position to go win another divisional game.
Yeah, I think it's a close one as well here. Of course, the Titans are coming off of that massive upset win over the New England Patriots. I don't think anybody saw coming. So certainly they have some momentum on their side. But I'm going to actually go with the Indianapolis Colts here as well. I think Andrew Luck is the best player on either team. He's going to be the best player on that field. I think he's going to take over. And the Titans are just too inconsistent for me. I think the Colts are starting to gain momentum at the right time. So I'm going to go Indianapolis on this one. One of the worst games of this week, unfortunately, Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the New York Giants. Hey, I just call it as I see it, Francesco.
Was that Monday night game not entertaining at all?
Are you not entertained?
Well,
Giants got to win, so I guess that's entertaining depending who you ask.
I'll say this is my first time all season. I'm taking the Giants to win a game.
Francesco is taking the Giants.
I'm taking my own team to win a game.
Cool.
Are they running the table like Odell said? Absolutely not. But
Odell said they were going to run the table?
He said they asked him.
Gotta love the confidence.
They asked him, Odell, what's the plans for the rest of the season? He goes, go 8-0 and make the playoffs. Not going to happen, but.
Well, if they want to go 8-0, it starts here. I think the Giants definitely have the home field advantage on their side here. Playing in the Meadowlands and in November. Tampa Bay not used to playing in the cold. I'm going to go with the Giants as well, actually, here.
They look great. That O-line looked great in that Monday night game. And the 49ers, they don't have the best D-line, but they don't have the worst. That was a great performance, and I think a struggling team like the Bucs is where they could capitalize.
Yeah,
so
I mean, I don't know which way. Are you picking the Giants to win, or are we both agreeing that the Giants are the better team here? Yeah, I think Giants will win this one. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last year, this would have been this was a rematch of the AFC divisional round, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Jaguars got the win in this one. Do they get it again this week?
No.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, it's a different time. It's a different era now.
It's so disappointing because this team, nothing really changed about this team going in. If anything, they looked like they got better.
Yeah.
And then they've just fanned out, and the Steelers are just way too hot, I feel like, to let a game like this slip away from them.
I 100% agree. I think the Steelers are going to win this one pretty easily. Not really much more to say about it. Jaguars are on the decline. Steelers are on the upswing. So, Carolina Panthers at the Detroit Lions. I don't really know if either of these teams are. Where do they stand? I think, Francesco, who do you see coming out of this one with the win?
Yeah, well, this is a difficult one to call because we have two teams who struggled last week, but they were both against very good teams. The Lions fell to the Bears. It was a somewhat close game, and then the Panthers. It was a lopsided performance, but the Steelers look really good right now. So I don't think last week and I don't think the past couple of weeks are a good reflection of either of these teams. I'm going to give it to the Panthers just because I feel like Cam Newton has secretly been amazing this season.
Yeah.
He's been really good. Christian McCaffrey looked amazing in that game against the Steelers. Their offense wasn't that much of the issue going in. I'm going to give it to the Panthers. I feel like they're just the better of the two teams.
Yeah, I mean, I'm agree with you on this one. I think the Panthers are going to win here, but I don't know. I think it's going to be close. This could be a coin toss. Cam Newton seems to thrive in these situations where he's facing adversity, usually coming off a loss. Usually he has his best game. So I'm going to go Carolina to get the win here. Dallas Cowboys at the Atlanta Falcons. Cowboys coming off that big win on Sunday night. Atlanta Falcons coming off a huge loss to the Cleveland Browns. So what do you think, Francesco? Do the Cowboys continue the winning streak?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think so.
No?
I think the Falcons, they just look like a good team that just has certain flaws that they just fail in. Their offense is really, really good. Their receivers are really, really good. And the one thing that Dallas has not been able to do over the past couple of years is create that good of a secondary.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think what's just going to happen is the Falcons are going to be able to figure out how to capitalize and use those offensive weapons against the Cowboys, especially with, home field advantage and everything. And honestly, I don't think losing to the Browns is that crazy at this point in this season. I don't think, it's not the best team to lose to, but it's not crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. This one is tough for me to call. On paper, I think the Falcons have more explosive weapons offensively. Defensively, I'd give the edge to the Cowboys just because of that pass rush. I don't know. This one's really tough to call for me, but if I had to pick a winner here, I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys, and it pains me to say that. But realistically, I've just seen nothing from the Falcons this year that has led me to believe that their talent on their roster is going to translate to wins here. I mean, they couldn't get it done in Cleveland. I have no reason to believe that they're going to be able to beat the Dallas Cowboys. So it pains me to say it, but I think the Cowboys are going to win this one. Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. Francesco, Bengals are coming off one of the most embarrassing losses that they've ever had to the Saints. Do they rebound here?
They say defense is really what wins games, and, you have one team that has been a little bit shaky as of recent, but it just has a solid defense all year, and then you have the other team who just fired their defensive coordinator. I think this will be one of the lower scoring games. I don't think either team is that, offensively powerful that they'll be able to really dominate on offense, but I'm going to give this one to the Ravens. I just feel like the Bengals are in not the best position right now. Can they bounce back later? Maybe, but in this game, I'm going with the Ravens.
All right. Francesco's going with the Ravens here. I'm actually going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals on this one. The Ravens have shown that they are very inconsistent. I think Cincinnati, even despite not having A.J. Green there, I think they still have better offensive weapons between, Joe Mixon, John Ross, Tyler Boyd. So I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals on here, just gut feeling. Houston Texans at the Washington Redskins. Francesco, Redskins obviously still atop the NFC East, but by a slim margin here. What do you think happens in this game?
I think people seem to forget that the Texans have won 6 straight.
Yeah, they do.
They're coming off a bye week. They're well rested. They're a really good team. I see them coming out top in the South this season. The Redskins, they've been through some tough injuries as of recent. I feel like this is another win for the Texans.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you here. I really like Deshaun Watson. I think the Texans are, again, one of those teams on the upswing here. I don't think the Redskins are legit. I know they're on top of the NFC East, but none of those teams in the NFC East really look all that good right now, so I don't think it's that impressive. I'm going to go with the Houston Texans to get a big road win here. Now starting our 4 o'clock block, we have the Oakland Raiders at the Arizona Cardinals. Up there with Giants-Bucks for worst game of the week. But who do you think gets the win here? Both teams desperately need one.
I'll say this. We did have the Giants-49ers in Monday Night Primetime, and that actually turned out to be an interesting game.
Yeah, true.
Who knows? Honestly, I think at this point it doesn't really matter which one's the better team because I think the Raiders are really trying to tank at this point.
I actually tend to agree. I don't necessarily know trying is the word there, but I think they're more accepting of the fact that they know they're not going to they have got no shot. There's no chemistry, there's no talent.
It's sad to admit that there's a team that kind of doesn't even want to win any games for the rest of the season. It's sad to admit, as such big NFL fans, but that's just the case. So I'm just giving this one to the Cardinals.
Yeah, Cardinals are at home. Josh Rosen's looked decent over the past couple weeks. Larry Fitzgerald's still there. Got some nice other young guys, David Johnson, Christian Kirk. Who do the Raiders have? Come on. I think the Cardinals are going to win this one. Yeah, not a pass rusher, that's for sure. If only they had one of those. Denver Broncos at the L.A. Chargers. Chargers, again, not atop the AFC West, but firmly in contention for one of those wild card spots. What happens here, Francesco?
I'm using my upset card in this game.
Okay.
I think this one's going to the Denver Broncos. I think the Los Angeles Chargers, they are a very good team this year. Are they a 7-2 team? I don't think that record really represents them. They're good. They could maybe make some noise in the playoffs, but they're not one of the best teams going out, in the AFC. So I think this is a game where they can get exposed for being a little worse than they put themselves out to be. Tough divisional game. Denver plays hard against all their divisional rivals. This could be a game that I think Denver could pull a win out.
Yeah, I guess it's possible, but I'm still going to go with the LA Chargers here too. They're just looking too good right now. They're playing too good of football. They're at home, which, I know that doesn't really have much for Chargers fans, but I'm still going to go with the hot hand here, and I think the overall better team, and that's the LA Chargers. All right, America's Game of the Week, Sunday, 4:25 p.m. It is the Philadelphia Eagles at the New Orleans Saints. Eagles coming off a massive loss on Sunday Night Football to the Dallas Cowboys. New Orleans was coming off a massive road win against the Cincinnati Bengals to increase their win streak to 7 in a row. Do the Saints make it 8, Francesco?
Yes. I'm sorry to say it to you. The Saints, I've been saying for the longest time that they are the real deal this year. Not only that, they have strong veteran players. They have a veteran coach that will not let games like this slip away. They know the games they need to win. They know the games they need to prove themselves in, and I just don't see them letting up a loss to the Eagles in this one, so I'm going with the Saints.
I think you're underestimating a really important factor here, though, Francesco.
Let me hear it.
Doug Peterson beat Sean Payton in a golf tournament over the summer. And because
Yeah,
of that,
you're right. I'm changing everything.
because of that, the Eagles are wearing their home uniforms. I'm taking the Eagles. No, I'm just kidding. They really are wearing their home uniforms because Doug Peterson won a golf tournament. But I'm still, as much as it pains me, I'm a logical person. I'm going to take the Saints in here. Saints are at home. They're coming off 7 wins in a row. Eagles aren't playing that good of football. Saints look like the best team in football. To me, it pains me personally, but I got to go with the New Orleans Saints here just because the writing's on the wall. Sorry. Minnesota Vikings at the Chicago Bears. Sunday Night Football. Should be a good one. NFC North playoff implications on the line. Who gets the big win on Sunday night?
This will definitely be a good game to watch. Both teams look really good, and the North is really competitive this year, and a win like this will probably decide the playoff picture. But the Chicago Bears, I think they're a lot better than sometimes they look. I'm giving this to them. I just feel like they're all around a better team. I feel like Trubisky, despite what the stats may say, is just a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. And I think that the Bears are...
Mitchell Trubisky's a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. Did I hear that right?
I think so.
Okay.
I think he's good, and just... The Vikings, they had a great defensive performance. Great defensive performances as of recent. The Chicago Bears got Khalil Mack. They're a good defense. Again, really good game. Really tough one to call, but I'm giving this one to the Bears.
This is going to factor into my bold predictions, which we'll get to at the end of the show, but I'm actually going to go with the Chicago Bears here at home. Again, I think they're the better team. I don't necessarily know if I believe that Mitchell Trubisky is better than Kirk Cousins, but certainly he's playing better at the moment right now. So for reasons I'll explain later, I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears to get a massive win on Sunday Night Football. And that leads us to our final game of Week 11, and it is the Monday Night Football game between the two arguably best football teams in the entire league. Potential Super Bowl preview matchup here. It is the Kansas City Chiefs at the Los Angeles Rams. This game was originally scheduled to play in Mexico City, but due to the field conditions, the NFL decided to move it back to Los Angeles. This is probably the most highly anticipated game, I would say, that the NFL has had to date this year. Mm-hmm. Anything can happen in this one, but Francesco, tell me, what's going to happen?
Let me just say, this game isn't a fun one to predict just because
could go either way.
I think the Rams are probably favored. You want to pick the Chiefs to be the underdogs, but it's like they're the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, this game could go either way. I will give this one to the Rams, though.
Okay.
I've been saying the Chiefs have looked really good. I think you're talking about two incredible offenses. I think the Chiefs have a little bit better of an offense, but I just think overall the Rams are just a much better team. I think on defense they look a lot better than the Chiefs, and I think just when it comes down to the full game, it's just going to be something that the Rams are just all better all around in, and the Chiefs just won't be able to keep up defensively.
I mean, this one is such a tough one to call for me. Again, probably the two best teams in all of the NFL. Could go either way, but I am going to say that the winner is the Kansas City Chiefs.
All right. But you see, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not like a crazy call to say.
No, I think if I know Andy Reid as well as I know Andy Reid, he makes his bread and butter off big games in the regular season.
You know him well? You have his number?
Yeah, actually, we're really good friends, Francesco. I hit him up sometime when he's in Philly. But so I'm gonna take the Chiefs to win this one. I think it's gonna be a great game. It's gonna be high scoring, a lot of action, a lot of fun. I'm taking the Chiefs to win this game. However, long term, I like the Rams to make it deeper into the playoffs.
That's fair.
That just based on what I've seen over the past couple years and what I know from these coaches, I think the Chiefs are gonna get the big win here, but the Rams are gonna get the win when it counts.
That's fair. I don't think that's far off. I don't think that's far off. Yeah.
So, that is the last game for Week 11. But before we sign off for here on 4th and Long, we got to do bold predictions because it is 4th and Long, and therefore we always just go for it. So, Francesco, I'm going to start with you. Give me your bold prediction for Week 11 in the NFL.
Every week I talk about a certain player and I say that he's going to break some crazy record or something, or something's going to happen. I'm going with teams. In fact, I'm going with a full game on this one.
Okay.
Oakland Raiders, Arizona Cardinals.
Okay.
There will be less than 10 points scored in this game.
Whew, is that a bold prediction? Yeah, I guess. I mean,
it could go either way. It could
Yeah.
be 10 points or it could be like 60, 70.
Yeah, yeah, depending on how. Yeah, certainly it's definitely possible. I think my bold prediction is going to come from the Sunday night football game between the Minnesota Vikings at the Chicago Bears. I have the Bears winning this one, and my bold prediction is that they win it off their defense. I think that the Chicago Bears are going to force 2 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles in this game.
Wow.
And the Chicago Bears defense is going to lead them to a big win here on Sunday night.
That's good. I think just as long as this Oakland-Arizona game looks like a baseball score, I think I would count my bold predictions.
All right. Well, if it looks like a baseball score, then we'll mark it down as Francesco got one right here. So that's going to do it here for 4th and Long. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back again 2 weeks from now. We are all going on Thanksgiving break, but 2 Wednesdays from now, 6 p.m., be right back here, same bat time, same bat channel for another episode of 4th and Long. Thank you guys so much for listening, and take care, everybody. Bye-bye.